there's something in it that is unexplainably beautiful. Like, the fact that we exist is beautiful to me, and it matters. Something in there that I can't quite put my finger on, and I kind of like that I can't.
Here we are, brand new show, talking about humans with other humans. How much more simple could it get? Let's welcome our guest, Paul Cram. Paul, it's amazing to have you here. You're an actor. You're just a ray of sunshine and energy. And I can't wait to hear your perspective on humanity. So welcome, and tell everyone anything I missed.
Oh, I love it. No, thank you, Vanessa, for having me on. I'm excited to be here. I love that too, human to human, because I do think that, like, I myself can get that so complicated where it's like, actually just talking to you as a human it's super fun. I, like you, I know we said this earlier, but like, I love to talk a lot, and I often talk and say too much. So I'm excited to be here and share the things. I am an actor. I am such a book nerd. I love to read. I'm queer. I all the things. Yeah. I don't have a cat. For some reason, I'm thinking about a cat. I don't own a cat, but at some point I'd like to have a cat. But yeah, I'm an actor. I've done a lot of like indie film work, kind of obscure things, and some audio narrating and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, and I'm a human.
Well, you qualify to be here, so excellent.
Yeah.
First question that I want to start off every single episode is, based on your humanity, your perspective, not, taking reference to the literal definition, but based on your experience, how do you define humanity?
Oh my God. I love this question. How do I define humanity? I have a lot of hope for humanity, and I don't know if I can necessarily define it, but from my vantage point, the things that are swirling around in my head at the moment are just, I feel like I have really been grappling with in the past few years, just a lot of trying to see humanity as something good and trustworthy, and not maybe as negative as I have, like, was raised and grew up in and was kind of taught to me. I do want to acknowledge, though, like, I think us humans individually are amazing. I do see sometimes as groups that we get really, really, really horrible. So, like, it's not to say that we don't get horrible sometimes individually, but I don't know. Like, I'm probably showing some of my thought process in that too. Like, I grew up very, like, fundamentalist Christian religion, which does not really balance well with being queer. Like, it wasn't really a thing and I have a lot of trust issues around trusting humans and trusting humanity, and I think that a lot of that's learned. So I'm unraveling that, but I don't know if I answered your question specifically. Like, my view of humanity and defining that, there's something in it that is unexplainably beautiful, and like, the fact that we exist is beautiful to me, and it matters. And I don't think that our views and things can take that away, even though, like, in my instance, I think it was tried to be forced into something that, I don't know. There's something spiritual or cosmic or something in there that I can't quite put my finger on, and I kind of like that I can't.
I really love, and by the way, you did a great job. So, I should have prefaced by saying, this is your perspective. There is no wrong answer. Maybe that might have
love
helped.
it. Yeah.
But you did fabulous, though, because you defined it as you see it, from your perspective through other people. You said the most beautiful thing ever being that it's a miracle that we exist at all. And it made me think about, yes, 100% agree. And also, it's what we do while we exist. Right?
Yes.
And our impact on humanity is what we do while we're here. And then you said something really interesting about, your trust and also your perspective. It probably, got a little I don't want to say distorted, but maybe changed based on your personal experience, because,
Yeah.
church is supposed to be a place where everyone loves you. And then to hear, other viewpoints about being queer, and there's a huge divide with a lot of churches. The way I had a best friend who was turned away from a church that we grew up in because he was queer. And I thought, that's not okay. And so I left that church because I couldn't
Oh, you
stand to
did.
be in somewhere. Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
did.
Because I couldn't be somewhere where I love you based on conditions. I was raised that God loves everyone. So then I said, okay, literally God loves everyone. So why do we have a problem with this person? And yeah. So I can see where that might have an impact on your path and
Oh,
how you view
absolutely.
humanity. And so I want to
Absolutely.
hear about that, but I don't want to get, crazy like,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so
I hear you in that. Can I ask how old were you when you did that? Because I feel like I feel like that's a bold thing on your part.
yeah. So I started going to that church around 13. And then when I left, I was probably about 18. So
Wow.
I'd spent a good amount of
Wow.
time there, but
Yeah.
that subject had never come up, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess, like, when you take a stock of who you are, what you believe, what you really believe to your core, if you find that, the ideologies in one place don't match with what you feel,
Mm-hmm.
you tend to notice that you're uncomfortable, and you can either just, push it aside and stay where you are, or you can face it and do what's necessary to be okay with yourself. So
I just have to say, like, kudos to you too. Like, I think to be able to do that at 18, like, it's great because there's things that I know for myself where specifically like the topic we're talking about, like specifically like being in church and maybe having things not sitting well. Like I did not really find that agency over myself, and to be able to express that and like to walk away from that for many, many decades. So
right.
that's awesome.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. But I can't imagine what it was to live through that, specifically, because what age did you come out to everyone around you,
I actually it was like
or
right around
even
my
to
in
yourself?
my early to myself. I being queer, like for myself, and I know I share this experience with many other people that are queer. I always knew, like, there when people talk about like, oh, when did you know? It's like I always knew something was different. It wasn't until puberty hit that I was just like, oh, this is what it is. Like, I'm
Mm,
gay. Like,
mm,
and I was really more out in my like early 20s.
sure.
I didn't have like this grand moment. There was a lot of things kind of going on in life that were,
Mm,
but yeah, but kind of, it wasn't a great experience. I will say that. Like, it wasn't. I'm so happy for friends now that I have where they're like, oh, I came out and like my mom brought me some rainbow balloons, and I'm like, that is
oh,
amazing,
that's
and I'm
nice.
so
Yeah.
happy for that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my experience. My experience was really bumpy. Um, and kind of to like what we were saying earlier too, like my perspective of humanity and really learning like the lens that I'm seeing the world through and seeing other humans and things like that has been really, really colored. Why wouldn't it be? By my
Mm-hmm.
experiences, like going through that in
Mm-hmm.
middle school, high school, throughout my 20s and 30s. I really, really had a hard time, and I still struggle with this, and
Sure.
it's trusting people and letting my walls down. And I have to say though, and I'm really loving this, like being able to find your people and
Mm-hmm.
find people that I am able to like be human and let my walls down and just exist is so wonderful. And it's such a breath of fresh air. And it's just like, oh, there's no pretense here. There's no people that are just, I think the word that you used, and I really like it. There were unconditional love, where it's just
Mm,
like, I love you, and whatever that looks like, and however that keeps to continue to change, and morph and evolve is great. And I'm trying to extend that to people. And it's really wonderful to experience it more recently, like in my day to day and in my life. So
yeah.
yeah.
Are you worried about everything that's going on right now with it's not just the LGBT community, but also, legislation, and I'm sure it's impacting friends, of yours, and
absolutely.
just at large. My son is transgender, and so it affects him, and he's, he was planning to go to college in Texas, and then now he's like, oh, I need to move to New York. I need to get out of here. So,
you do not have a college-aged kid. What?
I do. He's adopted. He was pre-baked when I got him. He was, but he's 21. I'm 40, by the way.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Thank you.
No, I would not have guessed that age at all.
It's the genes. Thank you, Mom.
Yes.
But yeah. So I worry for him. I worry for all of the community. I'm part of the community. I worry for everybody. And if you're an empath, or if you're just like naturally, you feel a considerable amount of feelings for everyone and yourself. You just can't help but look everywhere and wonder, like, how is everybody doing and coping? And I'm glad to hear that you have people that you can go to, and maybe that's part of it is connecting with other people that you can say, hey, you're my people, I'm your people, and everything else doesn't matter. But that connection, it's so cathartic, and that's all we can do. But it's scary.
No, I'm so with you, Vanessa. Like, there's something in there's I'm seeing this more and more in my upbringing, as I'm I just want to say too, I have to say, I am only where I'm at with like the help of a lot of support groups and therapy. Dear God, have I done like a ton of therapy, and like to like, I haven't figured these things out all by myself. I'm not
sure.
No, but I have to say, like, the this time there's a lot of things that I am paying more attention to than I have in the past. And I mean that as one who grew up in, like I said, within like a very fundamentalist Christian perspective, which I'm really starting to see now that I'm not in it, how politically motivated that is. And like, I see right now, like what you're talking about, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I know politics can get so polarizing, but and I think that's part of the point, but I'm like, I see like the justifications of everything that I grew up in, with very, very right leaning, very, it's all about just money, and, and it's very cut and dried, and there isn't much humanity within. I say that, I know that that's like a blanket statement, but so I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing people doing that currently. And I'm also seeing the flip of it now, as I have more community within like the LGBTQ community and very left leaning friend. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, for me, and this is probably not new, but the sides, they aren't communicating well. They aren't talking. They aren't seeing each other as human. Everything turns into an issue, and it's, I feel like maybe some of what we're doing today is what would need to, I don't know that we can fix it, but I feel like if people could, as human, and be like, it's so easy to make everything into an issue instead of being, it's like, we're talking about a human being, like your son who is trans. That changes the conversation. It's not just this, like, this weird thing that's out there. And I know for myself in my own life, my own family, which has been very, again, right-leaning, fundamentalist, Christian. I'm using air quotes just because it's like, it's very political, and which is not necessarily the following teachings of Jesus. It's like, it's just
right.
But even within that, like, having to have my family, my siblings, look at me and be like, this isn't just a gay agenda. This is our brother who's standing right in front of me. This is not just this, like, again, this amorphous, strange thing that's out there. And on that too, like, I know, like, my friends that I've been in the community that I've been making in this time, something that's been really wonderful that's come out of this, and the fear and wondering, where are things going and what is happening politically and what is happening nationally. My friend Annika, they started doing a once a week craft night. Where we all it's a space to get together and we hang out and we bring a craft, whatever we're doing. We do puzzles, or painting or, art, and we have community. And I feel like in this time, being able to connect with like-minded, great, affirming, encouraging friends is like a nice balm on how crazy, hard, and painful some of this is. So,
yeah, that definitely helps for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like a summary, not really a summary, but it made me think of if they could only personify those subjects, right? And those contentions, then yes, I think they would make a better connection with who they're hurting and what the effect is if they could consider that they're real people that are being affected, or maybe not, maybe they wouldn't. I mean, but
there's as you're saying that, Vanessa, something I'm thinking of is my definition of the word love has changed. And when I was growing up, with the conditions and with all the things, I do see within the church that I grew up in, my definition of love that I was receiving was not. It wasn't. I don't think it was a very good representation of love. There was conditions put on it, and also it was like that sort of harsh love, where it's like, this is like. Growing up, how do I say this? I am expressing love to you by being cruel. Like, this is that tough, it's like that tough love. Like, that was what I grew up in. And I see that a lot on like the left-leaning political machine, where it's like, oh, we are loving you. We're loving you by forcing you into like to conform, which that to me isn't love so much these days. Like, especially as an adult, where it's like, I'm an adult with intelligence and I'm making decisions. And if I'm not conforming to how whoever it is wants me to live, I don't know that could be construed as love, but it's still, right. There's something twisted in that love. And I'm not sure that, but I guarantee, like my family and a lot of people that lean way more right, it's like, no, it's that tough love. And this is what love is. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't see that quite so much these days. I'm like, no, we got to meet people where they're at, and also allow them to make decisions and have agency and all the things. And yeah.
So despite all of that going on, would you say that you still have hope for humanity and hope for this new warped form of love, that it could go back to just, unadulterated good love, the good kind, with no conditions?
I hope so. I feel like there's these beautiful bright sparks within everything. I mean, we can look throughout history at humanity and really get depressed. Yet within all of that, there's these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little glimmers of like, oh my God, that is the most stunning representation of love, of humanity, of sacrifice, of everything. And
so speaking of those glimmers, can you give an example of something you've seen firsthand? One of those glimmers or sparks of good humanity?
I strive to hopefully do some of that. Like, yeah, I can speak to that. From my personal experience, in all of to stay on topic, like in my life and in my upbringing, there's a really sweet moment that it shines in my experience as a teenager who was so scared and so afraid of being gay. I was so afraid of that, sort of like all of the things that would what that would mean. meaning losing family and just being estranged and all those things, like just mortified. And I was sitting at church alone with the pastor's wife. Her name was Elmita, and she was just sitting next to me, and I played the piano, and she was teaching me some stuff. And just out of the blue, at least out of the blue to me, she just turns to me and she just said, she's like, she's like, I really think it's cool and interesting that the one of the men who is working with our current president, she's like, he's gay. And she's like, and he also professes Christianity. And she's like, how cool that he like has the ear of the president and he's able to like make a really positive impact in our nation. And he's gay. And she just left it at that. And she just smiled, and then she just moved on and kept playing. And for me, it was one of those times where, like, looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, like she saw everything. And she was being so kind, and she didn't call me out. She just was it was a little sparkle and a little glimmer of something. And it was an impact on me. It made me smile, and it made me feel, not seen, where it was like, again, I feel like it was a bit of that unconditional love where it's like, I'm just letting you know this, because I know that she was seeing a lot of things for myself. I guarantee it. I guarantee that I wasn't probably as clever or smart or hiding anything that I was thinking I was. But but even for her to do that as someone who was in a position of power, like she was the, within that church dynamic and stuff, like what she said mattered. So,
sure.
Yeah, like that would be one little instance of where it's like, yeah. And to be honest, like too, I remember like within that church setting too, there was so much stuff at that point in time. I mean, this was the 90s. Being gay was very contested, even more than it is now. Like that was a really strange time within churches, and I'm not saying that it's all gone away, but it was just a very strange time for her to even say that. I also think was bold. Yeah, on her part, having sat and heard some of the sermons and things like that were going on within the church, I was like, she's not marching to the beat of everybody that's here.
Yeah, so she seems way more open and open to the idea that everyone can get along, and there is nothing else to say other than, hey, this remarkable person exists. I love that. I think that's so amazing. She didn't say, but what they could do or what they. Yeah, there were no buts.
There were no buts, and there wasn't any. There was. Oh, yes, exactly. There was no. There was no. It just was. It was simple, and I feel like simple's hard. Like I feel like actually just having even like giving an apology. Like I strive to do this so much, Vanessa, where it's like, don't put buts on it. Don't put all these like. Here's what it's like. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Period. Like trying to keep things simple and clean, and
I feel like she was telling you indirectly, hey, I see you. I think you're awesome. Here's this amazing person. And everyone is awesome. Like that's what it feels like. Indirectly, she was telling you, hey, I love you.
Yeah. And also being, I feel like, smart enough to know, I don't think in that moment I could have handled being called out. So like just a lot of empathy, like a very empathetic human being, which means so much. I just want to say this too, like another little glimmer I can think of as well is one of my uncles. He has passed, but he was gay, and I did not see him much, but I remember this so vividly. We were out in California, my family, when I was really little, and we were visiting. He was like in a campground. We all met up in a campground, and unfortunately, there was a fire in one of the RVs, and it was going up in flames, and there was people, and like just crazy, and everybody was running away from it. I remember though, my uncle, he ran towards it, and I want to be that. And I always remember too, he was the black sheep of our family because he was gay. Like nobody really talked about him, and he was kind of like that, dad uncle, which I've now become a little bit. But like, to me, I'm like, hero. Everybody was running away. He actually ran in. And it was like, and this is the guy that we all say is so horrible. Like, that didn't make sense to me at that time either, where I was like, wait a minute. Like, that's super brave. Like, but we don't ever talk about, I don't know. There's just,
Yes. It's amazing. It's like a huge, symbolic moment of his character and who he is, regardless of how everyone feels about him. But that's a courageous, amazing thing to do.
Yeah.
That he thought of other people, in a moment where your first instinct is to run and save yourself.
Is to run and save.
But he's like, no, I need to go toward that and save other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did your family change their mindset of him after that?
No.
Huh.
I can extend. I do have to say, on the note of like religion, like I actually can look at my siblings and my family and I can see this is not who they are as people. This is a learned behavior and they are choosing to operate in this way, but it's not who they are at their core. And that's unfortunate. At their core, like like I'm thinking of a specific sister of mine, the most charming, sweet person ever. And she's not allowing herself to fully accept and love people. And that's unfortunate. That's a choice that she's making, but it's not like at the core of who she is. And I don't know how to explain that other than like, I have a little grace there where I'm like, oh, this is something that is like I don't know. I don't have to live her life or make those decisions, but I can see that it's not, I hope that makes sense. Like, yes, we're responsible for our actions, but I can tell that it's not her.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
It's like choosing to be family over, letting that one thing be what separates you.
Yeah.
But, they're your family and you love them. So, you just focus on that. You focus on the love for each other and the times that you have together. That's wonderful. I mean, not everyone can do that. Some folks are like, well, you believe this, I believe that. We're not family anymore. And there's that huge divide. And that sucks for some people. That sucks.
Well, no, it does. It does. I am. I don't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say about your mom?
No. It's such a big subject, like so many feelings and thoughts, but, my mom, she passed not that long ago. So I come around and have like thoughts of just memories, good things, not so good things. And I remember, I believe it was around that period when I was 18. No, I was probably younger than that. Maybe a couple years younger than that. And I asked her, I said, what would you do if one of your children came to you and said that they were gay? Just testing the water. And she said, I'd kick him out. I'd kick him out and never talk to him again. And I was just like, Noted.
Good to know.
What's for dinner?
Why are you asking? No reason.
Holy crap.
No reason.
Holy
just
crap.
Curious.
Inside, I'm like, holy crap, just look away. But I mean, she's, culturally, when you're taught to believe certain things, and that's it, right? I didn't blame her for what she thought or what she believed, just because it's still your mother at the end of the day.
Right.
And if I could just make her life simple and just be, then that's just what it is. I didn't want to upset her, I also didn't want to have to find a new home.
No, and there's something in that too. Like there's something in what you just said too, Vanessa, where it's just like, you survived. I know that's something that in therapy, like, it was like, oh, I'm not, like, looking back on some of the things, like, I didn't come out and wasn't, like, proud. It was like, I survived. And to that younger version, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, like, to that younger version of myself, thank you. And I mean, I like to what you just said with like asking your mom that question, like, okay, you got some information. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But it's funny because we had this very odd relationship where I was so independent, like I said earlier, and I raised myself because she wasn't there all the time. And so I got a job when I was really young and I just took care of myself. So then by the time that I left for college and I had breakfast with her at a Denny's, and it was like
I love
not
Denny's.
even days. I know, right? That's where all the drama and the memories happen, and the trauma, trauma. Yes. So, I asked her the question, the end all be all question. I said, why didn't you raise me? And, and she said, because you didn't need it. She's like, you were doing it yourself. So I just figured you didn't need it. And I was like, no, I mean,
Mm,
thanks, but no. I was like, I needed a mother. Even if I was raising myself and doing everything for myself, I still needed a mother, someone to listen to and someone to be there for you. And so I left with that answer, and it was, kind of hurtful. And after years of thinking about it, I kind of came to a peace with it because, again, people are human and they can only do what they can. They can only experience and feel and grow as much as they can within themselves. And we can't put it on them to meet us at our level. We can't. We're just going to be constantly upset. And so, after she passed, and I thought, oh, I raised myself. I don't feel the same level of grief that my sister does because she actually raised her. And then I thought, there was a time where I had to move back. I lived in Seattle for a while and then I moved back and I was so exhausted and I slept. I must have slept for a few months at least, but she was there. She took me in, asked no questions on what happened the last 2 years. She gave me food. She, hooked me up with whatever I needed. She took me out to eat at nighttime in the middle of the night because I just couldn't be around people. And she didn't ask a question. She was just there. And that was, for me, that was a huge deal. So I thought, okay, maybe we didn't have the relationship that I wanted, or that I saw on TV or
mm.
what I thought I would have. But what I did have, let me just be thankful for that and just, just heal.
That's um. Would you consider that a little bit of a glimmer, like from what we've been talking about, like with obviously?
Yeah. Yeah. However, like, I would say it's a glimmer, and then also, it's kind of mixed with, some negative points as well,
I
because there are
understand.
things done by humanity that caused some really negative parts that made me have to,
Yeah.
be in certain situations. But yeah, it's definitely a glimmer. In the end, in the grand scheme, it's a glimmer because I realized that she was there. It was just completely not what I thought. So yeah.
That so resonates with some of my experiences too. In There was a point for myself just to relate to kind of what you're saying, like there's a lot of grief, I think, in kind of what you're sharing, Vanessa, where it's like, because whenever I hear now, knowing what I know now after a lot of therapy and support groups, whenever I hear people say, because I would be one of them too, oh, I always heard from people, you're so grown up. You're such a good, you're so good at everything you're doing. And it's like, that's actually an indicator that usually something's a little amiss because I was a kid and I
Yeah.
should have been a kid. Like I shouldn't have been so grown up,
Yes.
And I hear that quite a bit, but there was a moment for myself too, to kind of piggyback on what you said, but like I reached a point with my dad, my father, before he passed. My dad actually passed not too long ago too. So sorry to hear about your mom. About my
Sorry for
dad.
your loss
Like
too.
it's
It's a
yeah.
big deal. It's bigger than we ever think it is, and you can prepare yourself. I know I tried to, like, for the last few years because she was older. She was 77, so I'm like, okay, this is
Yep.
going to happen. But then when it does, you're like, well, wait a minute. I thought it was going to be at the end of the year, not just in some random ass day in January.
What just happened? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Uh And I'm so grateful for, like, I reached a point with my dad where I was just like, I kind of gave him an ultimatum, which looking back on it, it just happened how it happened. I was like, I'm going to cut you out of my life. We're not going to do this anymore unless you come and sit down with me at therapy. Like, I can't interact with you otherwise. Like, this is just too much. And he did. And he came, and can I just say also, like, I laugh so hard, like, at myself. Like, yay, dad, like, oh my God, yes, he showed up. But also, like, I guarantee the therapist when we would leave I hope he was rolling on the floor laughing at my antics, because I was just like, and I'm not making this up, I am a very dramatic person. I was literally like jumping up and down on top of the couch, screaming, "Fuck you, fuck you!" Can we? I don't know if I can. I swear?
You're cool. Yeah,
okay.
You're cool. Yeah. I'll just mark explicit. We're good. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, and I was like, and my dad, and I was just letting it all out, like all of and the therapist even said too. He was, because my dad's like, "What's happening?" My therapist is like, he's like, "I think this is just needed to happen."
Yeah.
Not making this such a big deal. And I remember the next week, my dad showed up, and I was like, "Oh," and it was one of those. It's interesting because it struck me so hard in the heart, because I was like, "Oh, you like, I'm being okay. You showed up. Like, you love me." Like, and it was one of the first times in my life where that just hit home. And I do. Kudos to my dad. Like, he showed up, you know?
Yeah.
and
those parents doing good things. Showing up. What do they think they are?
What's happening? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so happy he showed up. Okay, then go. Then what happened?
And you know what? And it was great. It was one of those things where, with the help of therapy and over a little bit more time too, time was great. My dad and I, we grew. I won't say that we grew as close as possible, because that is not what happened. But I will say we grew as close as where I was at and where he was at was possible. Like, and it was really, really nice. And I always love outside affirmation, but like, I remember one of my nieces coming up to me, and she was like, she told me, she's like, "I'm going to therapy." And I was like, "Well, good for you." And she's like, "I'm going because I watched you." and I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "Because I saw you and Grandpa." And she's like, "You changed and he changed." And right? Like,
oh my goodness. Wow. That's amazing. How old is she?
But now she's in her mid-20s, but at that point in time, she was I don't think she was even 20 yet. But and it hit me when she said that. I was like, "What? Like,
that's amazing."
Yeah, so it's that humanity piece too, where it's like, and I have to tell myself this. It's like, wait, oh yeah, I matter. And what I'm doing matters, because it does have an effect on the people that are in my life. And
yes.
And I want that to matter. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
But what I love about it is I did not do any of that, like going to therapy with my dad. I did not do any of that with the intention of trying to impact anybody but me. And it was nice. It was nice. And I think you get this already, but like, me and my dad's relationship was tough. It was hard. You know,
sure.
and even after all of that, it was still bumpy here and there, and but it was one of those times. Yeah. So
he showed up. That was the biggest.
He showed up.
He showed up. New title of the episode. He showed up. Nice.
He showed up.
He showed hashtag. I'm kidding. I believe that. Okay, you said something that the last week's guest said, which I'm loving, that there are folks just like, connecting to one another's messages, and that ripple. You did something that impacted someone else. Because of you, she went to therapy, right? Your actions touched someone else.
Yeah.
And then even though you did it for yourself, it's necessary. What do they always say? You can't help someone else unless you help yourself. You can't love someone else unless you love it, right? Yep. All these things go back to the self. So in doing what you needed to do for yourself, you impacted indirectly someone else. And everything we do, it has an impact on someone else. It's all rippling. You matter 100%. Telling yourself that is so important. And then all of your actions, they impact everyone else. So it is important to do and take care of yourself and make sure that you let yourself know how much you matter. And then think about how every single thing that you do is going to impact someone else. So it's just at scale. It's huge.
It is huge. And
yeah.
again, it's huge, and it's I keep thinking of that word simple. Like, it's huge and it's simple,
Thank you.
but I feel like
is
a lot
broad
of
and simple at the exact same time because it's just funny. It really is. I mean, that's a simple concept to understand. Oh yes, you say something, it affects me. I do something else because of that. Or I have an idea to do something else. So you're affecting me by telling me, you're sharing something with me, sharing with me that you're doing your niece, right?
Yeah.
That she, decided to seek help based on your experience. Well, that's going to impact what I say when I go to a meeting here in a couple hours and share with other people who are dealing with mental health issues and be like, hey guys, there was this one cool dude. but yeah, so simple yet so complex. But I love that you have a positive outlook on humanity. Normally when I ask people, how do you define humanity? I can kind of see where their thought process is as far as like, do they believe that it's positive or that it can be positive, or do they believe like, oh no, total decline. It's, it's dead. It's dead. No CPR, it's dead. It's not dead. It's not. It's
not.
Still alive.
No, it's not. I do have a positive outlook on it. Well, also, I think being fairly feet on the ground, like it's like, there's some, oh my God. Yeah. But I'm with you on that. Have you ever had people, or maybe you will, as you keep doing the show, like, have you ever asked that question and people are just like, we're all just going to die? Like,
I haven't yet, but then, there's only been so many episodes. However, I can't wait till I do.
Yeah.
because the journalist in me wants to ask them, like, why do you feel that way? Was it personal? Something happened. Let's talk about that. Let's deep dive and talk about that. But nobody's wrong. That's the beautiful thing, is that when the show is built on, your perceptions, your experiences, no one's wrong, because everyone had, some kind of experience or is going through something that, affects how they live, how they function, what their thoughts and, philosophies are. Right. So I've always lived on that principle. No one's wrong, well, I mean, to an extent, but if they're not hurting someone, you're able to have, you're allowed to have your own beliefs,
And that wasn't, I mean, I'm kind of repeating what I said earlier, and that wasn't something that I was really feeling. That wasn't something I felt growing up. Like, it was like, I didn't feel like I don't feel like I gave other people that. And I also definitely did not receive that, where it's like having that agency of, it's like,
right.
You get to decide some of these things. And I think I think it's beautiful. And,
so I'm so curious to learn, how you evolved, based on those words and based on people not giving you that or limiting you or like, how did you get from that person to this person sitting right here?
I
know you said therapy.
Therapy was definitely a part of it. I do have to say, like, where I'm at right at the moment in this right now, Vanessa, on like the topic of like God and spirituality and things like that, like, I'm putting a huge question mark. Like, I was raised very fundamentalist Christian. At the moment, I'm like, I'm not atheist, but I'm definitely like, I'm not sure exactly. And I really like the ambiguity. Like, I like just because of what I was raised in, where it's like, this is the only, it's like, actually, I'm not sure.
Right.
But that has been a journey too, in and of itself, of really just like allowing for, like, there's something, I do feel like there's something And I mean
There's something
something,
there.
there's
Yeah.
something more, there's something there. And maybe
Yes.
not being able to define it, there's beauty in that for me. And
Yeah.
this
No, I
journey,
100% agree. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
no, and this journey for myself, like even back when I was a kid, kind of existing and living in that, even though I was experiencing a lot of hatred, because let's I'm just going to be real. Like what I experienced was a lot of hatred, a lot of homophobia, a lot of like not allowing somebody to just exist. That's
Mm-hmm.
painful, you know. But within that, and I don't know how to explain this other than like even within that, I never doubted that whatever, I'll use the word God, even though I'm not sure that that's quite defining this. I never felt hated by whatever that is.
Mm.
So there was something where I was just like, this God doesn't hate me. Whatever, however you want to define it, no. And so like I always had that. And so throughout everything, the experiencing people,
Yeah.
like I never, and I think that I've allowed that to grow more, especially
Mm-hmm.
within the last few years. I will say it's not lost on me, and it wasn't lost on my therapist when my father passed, that really coming to accept certain things about myself and who I am. And I know that that's not abnormal, but having to walk through that, like there's something with, there's something when you lose your parents where it's like, okay, here I am. And I don't, there's just something in that. It just happens. But to answer your question more specifically, there wasn't just like one moment. It was a lot of many little things along the way over the years for myself. Like those little glimmers, like the pastor's wife doing that, and yeah.
It's kind of remarkable to understand, because I mean, not to bring it back on myself, but
please do.
it's like a similar situation of moments, of really messed up moments, where an ordinary person would just, give up on religion or anything of the sort, saying, how could God let that happen to his children,
Mm-hmm.
And or in my specific situation, there was a period where I lost my job and my housing was tied to my job, and I was thousands of miles away from home. So it made for a really difficult year. And at the time, while I was married, my spouse said, they said, ordinarily someone growing up in your position would hate humanity because of all the things that you experienced, like some really awful things. And I said, but I can't. I cannot harbor any ill will toward anyone for any reason. I just cannot. I can only love people and understand that, humanity may do bad things, but there's also still this opportunity to redeem, or to see the goodness and to help other people, find that goodness. But there were experiences where he was like, I don't understand how you don't just hate the fact that you were abandoned and put into a really bad position, and so you don't have any ill will toward anyone. He's like, I don't get that. So it reminds me kind of what you said, of going through these experiences, but then still remembering that there was this benevolent force outside of what was happening to you, and still, experiencing those moments and moving forward, instead of just, listening to what other people said, all of that hatred, and believing that that's all there is. But you pushed past that, and you kept evolving. So
And
that's where I think
without hardship, and I think I get that's what you're saying too with your experiences, where it's like there's I feel like at the core of who I am, and I feel like maybe this is where you're at too, I am pretty optimistic as a human. And as much as are you Harry Potter? Have you ever read?
I do love Harry Potter, yes.
So me too. So I feel like I would not probably be sorted into Slytherin, even though sometimes I'm like, oh yeah. No, I'm definitely Hufflepuff. Like I'm just like, yep, absolutely. Even though I really do like Slytherin and Gryffindor and all the things. But there's something about it. I'll use the word innate. It's like those things where it's like, no, I am. Recently, actually, on social media, there was a family friend. She knew my mom, and she was when I was a really little kid, and she's like, "You are just the word I always think of when I think of you, Paul, is you're very sweet. And I appreciate that. I'm like, oh, thanks for echoing that back. Like it's nice to, it's like, because in order to protect myself, I often get I'm like a cactus where I'm like, oh, I will cut you like with my
sure
yeah, and it's to protect myself. And there's something in all of this where it is fascinating. Like even what you're saying, Vanessa, it's fascinating to hear. It's just like through the hardship, through all of these things, through hatred, through experiences, through all the things, to still be able to have hope and also to have love and to have, I do see, and it makes me sad. I do see people that are in my life where I can see where the things in life have hurt them, and they've not been able to and maintain that sort of like perspective where and I'm hopeful still for them, where it's just like, oh, I hope that they can keep putting one foot in front of the other and get through that to the other side of whatever that is. Yeah, and it's I don't know. I've had some people even tell me, they're like, oh, like it's good your name's Paul because you have such a Pollyanna person, like everything. And I'm like, so it is. I do feel like it's like the core of who I am is definitely a bit more positive. Yeah.
Yeah. You should make Pollyanna your middle name.
I dated amazing. A guy. Oh my God. I dated a guy and he would always call me, and it drove me so nuts. Maybe I shouldn't say this because it'll probably start to stick, because he started calling me Paulie. He was from New York and he's like, Paulie. And I was like, Paulie. I was like, no, only my nieces can call me Paulie. Then my friend, she told me, she's like, Paul, he's from New York, and actually it's probably like kind of a way that he's telling you that he really likes you. And I was like, oh, he's in his way, that's his little love tap. Like, okay, I can stop being so cantankerous and like stop calling me that.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It makes me think of Polly Pocket, but
oh my God.
Forget that I said that. I just had to.
I love that.
Say it. Okay, so where do you see, or I guess, what's your message to humanity, and what do you want to see humanity become?
I want I feel like my message and what I want humanity to become is more accepting. And yeah, I know that so much of that is shaped by my experiences in this life. And more accepting and more loving and more all the things that we have the capacity for, but for whatever reason we don't. But yeah, we have so much potential, and we're tapping into some of it, and we're not tapping into all of it. So I feel like yeah, there's so much to learn from each other. But yeah, that would be my message: is love each other, accept each other. Yeah.
Tap that humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's a good one. Can you tell everyone, what you're working on, where they can find you, all that good stuff?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
People can find me at iampaulcram.com. Yep. And all of my socials and everything are all connected to that. So, check it out if you're interested. I always love hearing from people.
Are you working on a movie right now, or on a project?
I've been reading for some. I'm not working on anything right at the moment, but there's a really interesting, if people that are listening, there's a movie that is streaming right now that hit streaming platforms a couple months ago, and it's called Abroad. And it actually dives into a lot of the themes of things we've been talking about. It's called Abroad. It deals with people. There's a couple that they come to the Midwest, and they are from South Korea. So it deals with a lot of like miscommunication, and one of the characters, he they think he may have been a part of a murder, and he can't really communicate well because of the language barrier. Like it's a thriller, but it really has some overarching themes, again, of like humanity and how we communicate to each other when we don't quite understand each other. So there's a really if you like a little bit of a scary thriller, it's a good one. But the overarching theme, yeah. So check it out if you want. It's abroad, and don't believe anything that you see in it of me, because I play a really dark character.
So what we see is not what we see on TV.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep.
Paul, you are amazing. You are a wonderful human. You're delightful, sunny,
I appreciate
very
that.
talented. You matter, and I'm so glad that you spent time as a human connecting with us other humans, and I can't wait to share this with everyone and see how it impacts humanity. So thank you so very much, and stay in touch for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Vanessa. It's been delightful to chat with you and hear some of your stories as well. Like, I appreciate you being a human being with me for a little while, and it's amazing to me too that we just met and we're having this sort of a discussion. So thank you for making this happen in this space and what you're doing. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome, human, fellow human. All right. So thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast. We'll see you next week for a new episode, and make sure you visit IamPaulCram.com.